I'm using Dad's own saw to do it too.
Somebody's very tired. My parents believed in close family relationships. Close to them meant putting mom, dad, her cat, your kids, a cat, and a dog in one car along with luggage on vacation and driving for miles and miles. And if you weren't close at the beginning, you sure were at the end. But actually, when we think back about it, something happened in a lot of those hours that we spent together. Something I think that's missing a lot of families today. There's such a rush to get here, to get there. Let's go to Disneyland, but we're going to take the plane and fly. Let's go here, but we're going to, we have to go. And they didn't go so much as let's stop and watch the sunset. Let's stop and take a walk on the beach. Let's stop, and what was most important, we're going to go to church this morning. And how many families do that now? And somehow, I think sometimes in the rush and business of today's life, of always wanting to go someplace and do something, that somehow we've lost something because we spend time in a car together like that, traveling, doing songs together, telling stories. You get to know each other, you get to talking, and so forth, and something develops that can't ever be lost. And you look at it, and we've got it. And there's a lot of things that don't. And I think it's because they did spend all of that time. I mean, sure, it wasn't always comfortable. I mean, you should try to sleep in a car with a dog on your feet, and you find out. But there was something that developed in those times. And I look back, and Roberta said, well, what were your good memories? And then, that's what came back, were those vacation times. And I've talked to a lot of my friends who grew up in the state of Washington, and when I was at the same time I did, and I was amazed at how many of them had never been to the places in their own state like we had, because their parents had never taken the time. They were always too busy, always too much of a rush, always too much on the go. But our folks always took time, and I think that's something, you can't put a dollar sign on it. You can't put anything else on it. And that says more than anything else. They told me that we were going to all have to come up and say something, and I started out with about 20 pages, and then they told me I had to cut it down because Barbara's got a 5-minute timer, and when it dings, they're going to be yanking me away from the mic. Being the youngest, my brothers and sisters have always insisted that I got away with a lot. In retrospect, I probably did. My parents seemed to be very strict with their first and second born children, and then they kind of eased up when the third one came along, and any subsequent children can do many of the things that the older children couldn't, usually because the parents had already lived through it, or they were too busy with the older ones, and the younger ones were able to tag along on the activities of the older ones. All in all, I think my parents did a pretty good job of keeping tabs on us. I remember leading such a sheltered life that we were never around people who smoked or drank or ever heard any swear words spoken, because we weren't even allowed to say darn, heck, or gee, because those were too close to real swear words. I remember calling Dad Pop and getting in a lot of trouble because I was being disrespectful. And being in junior high school and saying shoot and getting in trouble because the teacher thought I had said something else. And it took me years to figure out what the word was that I was supposed to have said. Their love for us was in giving us a private school, Christian school education, and sheltering us and nurturing us as we grew up. But I ended up, all in all, being the wild child. We had 3 very mellow kids, and then God decided that they needed a little testing. So I was the one that went out and did everything that the others didn't dare to do. I was the one who climbed out the window upstairs and snuck out in the middle of the night. I was the one who, rolled my skirts up when I got to school and rolled them back down before I came back home again. And of course, when Marie and I were teenagers was when rock and roll started coming into fashion, and we did manage to sneak in a few Elvis tunes and Beatles music around our house. But with everything I put my parents through, they continued to love and support me with prayer. And they let me get bumped and bruised with life's experiences because they realized that I had to learn things the hard way. In trying to think of little things that happened as we were growing up, I remembered that the song Heavenly Sunshine had special meaning for us. There was this yellow vitamin supplement called Sunshine. You know why you're laughing, don't you? My mother made us take Liquid Sunshine every morning as our morning vitamin supplement, singing Heavenly Sunshine as she gave it to us. And even now, when I hear that song sung, I can taste that medicine. Dad's tinkering, I think, is something that I kind of inherited. Everything around our house had to be modified. Nothing was just fine when it came home from the store. It had to be modified. And I remember one time being put on TV restriction. I wasn't allowed to watch TV for some reason or another. And so I decided to tinker. My dad had removed the fuse from the back of the TV set. And I decided that if I rolled a piece of aluminum and stuck it in where the fuse used to be, that the TV would
which it did until I tried to pull the fuse out without unplugging it first and got the shock of my life. The thing I remembered about Mom is that she did a lot of sewing for us. You may have seen the picture over there of when we came down from Alaska and we were all wearing beautiful matching gray outfits. The only problem with that is that I was the youngest. I was 3 years old when we came down from Alaska, and I wore that gray suit until I outgrew it. When I became 5 years old, I wore the one that Marie outgrew. And when I was 10 years old, I wore the one that Roberta outgrew. I hate gray suits. And Marie mentioned traveling around in the car. We had a car which had the initials ARK, and we did call it the Old Ark. And our favorite song singing in that car was "The Old Ark is a Moon Run." All of our activities at home centered around church. We went to church Sunday morning, Sunday evening, Wednesday evening, and every night of the week if there was an evangelist in town. I remember the saying that you weren't late unless you got there after the Vaughns. I also remember that we were the ones who locked up the church, sometimes with me still in it. I found out that you can't get out of the church after it's been locked either. They did come back and get me. But it's been good years. And I've been with them 40 of their 50 years. Everybody else is teasing me about being on the pill now. Mom and Dad were active in Christian education and in teaching at church, and they continued it on when Mary Jo and Dan were little and taught on us 2s and 3s. They even had the kids in the church calling them Grandpa and Grandma because Mary Jo and Dan were calling them Grandpa and Grandma. But it's nice to see a couple that after 50 years still treat each other with respect and they still hold hands.
Don't you love it when your sister steals your thunder?
What's there to say?
Except for I'm thankful to have had parents that were good examples. And like she said, they sacrificed to send us to a Christian school, and it paid off. To this day, I can still remember at Green Lake Christian when our teacher taught us to memorize scripture, and to this day, it comes back. And as I hear them starting to read those scriptures that I've committed to my heart, it's still there. It's still there. It's a lifetime memory that you'll never forget. And also, once you have these habits instilled in you, then you try to instill them in your children. Larry and I are now almost grandparents. And we were talking with our daughter and son-in-law as we were traveling down the road to East Tennessee one day. And she said, Mom, she says, I'm really bothered by people and their lack of commitment to the Lord and their lack of commitment to the church. And she said, okay, I'll admit it, we're church nerds. And I said, honey, if you're going to be a nerd about anything, I'd rather you be a nerd about the Lord than anything else. And I attribute it to parents that wherever we moved, the first place they found was a church. That was the first place. Sure, we moved around a lot. But they always looked for a church. They always made sure we were there. And you know, when the going got tough at church, and you know, when people started not doing things the Bible said we're supposed to do, they didn't bail out. They just prayed for them and hung in there. And I thought, wow, what a wonderful example. And then when we got to be adults and had our children, when going got tough, Larry and I talked about it, what are we going to do? And we prayed about it. I said, hey, we got to hang tough. Got to hang tough. And with the Lord's help, we can hang tough. And that's encouragement. My children wanted to be here today, but Eddie's in Germany and far, far from home. It's hard. It really is.
It was hard to leave my daughter, expecting her to be home. But our thoughts and prayers were with her. Eddie recorded a song for you, and I'm going to play it.
Someone called your name. Turns on the trumpet. He was flying from the air. He said, "Say nothing on me now." He said, "But wait." He used to teach my Sunday school. Now he's going to be every week he would say a prayer before the class would start. One day he said, "I asked Jesus in my heart." Thank you for the angel, Lord. I am alive. Missionary came to your church, his pictures made you cry. Didn't have much money, but you gave it anyway. Jesus directed you, and that's why I'm here today. One by one they came, far as the eye can see. Each life somehow touched by your generosity. Little things that you had done, sacrifices made. Oh, in heaven, you're not supposed to cry. So for sure that there were tears in your eyes. Jesus took your hand and you stood before the Lord. He said, "My child, round you, praise your reward." I am alive and was changed.
I'd like to thank all of you for coming and helping to make this a very special occasion and for helping to make it a special day for Mom and Dad. And I'll just keep the Lord first in your lives. That's what I'd like to encourage you to do. And now is our golden photo opportunity. So if we want to, do the Herzog Michigan card first? Over here? On the stairs? The balloons are for the kids. You guys can take them home, okay? After we're through.
They're already hard to, it's already